Hey folks, welcome back to Green Iron TV. It is time to dive back into the M38a1 here. We've fiddled with this thing and fiddled with it. A couple episodes ago, we found out why we've been running rough, and that was that the distributor had come loose, bouncing on the trailer all the way to the Nationals in Oshkosh last fall, which allowed that distributor to clock itself out of timing. Here all along we thought it was a fuel distribution problem, and I had monkeyed with the Carter YS carburetor, the original carburetor for this vehicle. And then once I figured out it was the distributor and got it back into adjustment, now I have the carburetor so completely out of adjustment and out of whack that the vehicle doesn't want to idle well. It runs awesome on the top end, but just doesn't want to idle well. And I have a feeling, I thought I had a little bit of a leak around the top of the float bowl there. So I used a little basically silicone, well, a gas-proof sealant, put a thin coat around that gasket to make sure that I was getting sealed and wasn't getting an air leak there, which apparently I probably wasn't. But in doing so, probably a little squidge of that sealant has gotten down into the carburetor, and I think it's stopped up the idle circuit. So our good friends at Midwest Military, John Basil over there, I ordered a carburetor rebuild kit from those guys. Came the other week, and just been searching for the time to get a moment to get this carburetor ripped off and get it on the workbench and rebuild it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and go through how to do a rebuild on the Carter YS carburetor. So thanks a lot for watching. Like always, make sure to leave a comment, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody that follows along with us. Also, take a moment, check out the link in the description down below for the Green Iron TV merchandise store. There's hats like the Green Iron hat, there's t-shirts, sweatshirts, all kinds of nice things in there, so check that out. Thanks a lot. Okay, we've got the carburetor off, and we're going to go ahead and do some rebuild work with it. I've got the new parts kit from the guys at Midwest. All the new parts, all the new gaskets, all that stuff. I have also gone ahead, I've printed out the Carter YS manual so that I have references to follow along with. And we will go ahead and kind of get started. So I think one of the first things, let's go ahead, let's get the metering rod out. So let's use a screwdriver here. And I've laid this old towel out here on the workbench, mainly because it's going to be nice. It keeps little small parts from rolling around. So one of the things we're going to want to do is we're going to want to keep things kind of grouped together so we know where they came from. Now there's a lot of new screws in the kit, and we know, so when we go to put it back together, we are going to, of course, use as many of the new screws as possible. keep our springs separate. Alright. Well, that's never a good thing when a little piece falls out like that. That was obviously part of our problem, is the pin had kind of fallen out and that wasn't sitting in there correctly. So that little pin goes in across. Goes to the meeting rod, but it's gotten kind of peened a little bit from bouncing around and not being in the right spot, coming loose. So, boy, hopefully that's one of the problems. So there is a jet down in there now. Let's get that jet out. Let's see here. Alright. So there's our metering rod jet. We'll set that off to the side. Let's go ahead, let's get the top off. And of course, we have two incorrect screws in it there. So we'll replace those with correct ones. Let's see here. Set those up there on the side. All right, and then these two screws here. And one more in kind of a funky position up front here. I need this thinner screwdriver to get in there a little easier. So like I said, we had put a little sealant around this gasket because I thought maybe we had a little bit of an air leak there, but we'll go ahead, we'll get all that cleaned up and off, get the new one on. We will take our float apart, clean the valve. I believe there's a new valve in there. And then we will set the per the specs in the book there, and we got a little bit of fuel laying down in there. And one of the things I can see is our check ball here. There's a little check ball and a weight. And that has obviously got filled in. So I want to make sure we get that all out of there. Let's see if we can get that to come out now. We're going to have to do a little cleanup here to get that out. So while we're not afraid to let that, we know it's not going to come out, let's go ahead and let's take the accelerator pump off. Get it out of the way. So this diaphragm looks pretty hard and crusty. So we'll be replacing all that. You want to make sure there's two different, the springs are different. So you want to make sure you keep the springs separate so that you can put the proper spring back in with the proper unit. All right, let's get the main throttle body off. All right. So one of the things we're not going to do is we're not going to take the butterflies and stuff out. From what I understand, that is just very difficult to do, often likely resulting in some broken parts. we don't seem to have very much, we don't have a lot of excess play. It seems to be nice and smooth, so we're gonna leave it alone. Alright. Alright, we got one more to take off here. Notice it does have a little bit of a gasket there. And there is a screen in here. Really fine little screen. And then a jet. So that's basically got the entire throttle body disassembled, other than we need to get that check ball and weight out. So I'm gonna have to do a little cleaning there around the edge, and then we're gonna do some cleanup and get this all cleaned up, and then hopefully we'll be able to start getting some new parts out and installing some new pieces. We use a gasket scraper here. Clean up all along it there. See, there's a little bits of stuff that has slid down in. That's what's preventing this check ball from coming out. So we're going to keep working at that. We may have to There it came. All right, so there's our little check weight and the tiny little check ball. Set that stuff up and out of the way. All right, so now we have everything apart, and now we can give this thing a good thorough cleaning, and and then we'll start looking at putting some parts back together. Okay, so one of the things we've done, we opened up the kit and we've laid out and matched all the parts with the ones from the kits with the new ones, so that we got everything nice and straight and it's nice and easy to go back together, because we're not doing a couple things. So there are a couple pieces here because I did not take the butterflies apart, so there are some pieces for that, but all in all, we have everything kind of cleaned up and ready, and we are kind of ready to go back together. So we're gonna slowly start putting the pieces back together. All right, we'll start with the bottom of the throttle body here. And so we have the idle adjustment screw, and there was an old rubber in there, so we have a brand new one and a brand new rubber. So we're going to go ahead and install that. All right, we're going to go all the way in the bottom. And then to start with, we're going to come out, that's a half, that's 1 1/2. So that's where we're going to start with. All right, let's start putting, let's put the top together here. So we removed that, we have the new one to go on. And we'll get that. We have the new float, needle, and seat. And there is a gasket there, so we are going to make sure we get the gasket back on it. Of course, the big thing when putting all this stuff together, you want to remember this stuff just barely over finger tight. It doesn't need to be torqued down to 300 torque pounds. So we have the float. We know the float's good. We have a new pin. So we're going to set this on here. Put the pin in. All right, so one of the things we know is the float should be a 1/4 inch. And so we'll get out and let's go grab a ruler. So when it comes down in bottoms, we should be a 1/4 inch, and that is where we are, which is good. So when the float comes all the way up and closes it off, we should be a 1/4 inch from the top to there, per what's in the manual. So we have that all. That actually was set good before, so we know that. So let's set that off. All right, and now we've gone around, we've cleaned up. So let's get some pieces together here.
So let's start here with the accelerator pump. Meaning, look how pliable that rubber is compared to that old one. So we have the big spring, and then the cover. Get the cover right. And we have new screws. All right, get everything tightened up. All right. All right, so we got the new jet. So we'll put that in there. Oh, we need the skinny one. Get it lined up and tightened in. The new screen. And then the new cap. All right, let's do the metering rod and jet. So we have the new jet. Our new metering rod and our pin. And so we're getting all of that lined up. All right, so that has that back together. That's holding the metering rod. So insert it down. This side takes the short spring. And we have new screws for here. Oh, sorry, we have new screws for here. Where did I set them? Oh, they're there. They got mixed in. Everything's nice and snug. Perfect. All right. Now we have the new check ball. Drop that in, and the check ball weight. And that drops in. All right, so that's those pieces. Just looking to make sure I didn't. These go up here with that. Just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So actually, yeah, I do have. So they give you a new filter here. So we'll pull that one out. They give you a whole new fitting. I'm not going to bother because I don't feel like changing that fitting all out. It's a fitting. There's nothing wrong with it. We'll use the new gasket. So we'll use the new gasket and then we'll fix that filter. And put it back in. All right, and then we'll tighten that up and get that back around. And of course, with the new gasket, we are slightly off. And let's see here, grab a different. I grab a different wrench so that I can clock that. Nope, 5/8. All right, parallels where it was. That should make hooking up that fuel line easier. Get our gaskets here. All right. And our new screws. Be a little burr or something there. Let's just. Yep, that is the right one. So there just must be a little bit of a burr. Yep. Yep, there's a little burr there, so. All right, as we flip this over, we want to watch our check ball. I'm going to put my finger over it. we go. Didn't want to catch the threads. And of course, the joy of everything being done old school with regular slot screws makes it just a touch more challenging. All right, now let's flip that over. Make sure our check ball and weight is still there. All right, there is that. We have our gasket and our helps when you're paying attention and you turn around and point it in the right direction. All right. Let's see, we know that takes the long skinny to get up there. Alright. Well, these two, it seems like they're just a touch short. Let's see if we take the washer off. If that makes a difference. Allows it to get down to where it'll... Yeah, there we go. So we'll take the lock washers off these two. See if that helps them get into a better spot. All right. And of course, these two we're not going to put in yet because those go to the throttle linkage bracket. And so we'll stick those two in when we put it back on the machine. So that is all in all how we've done the rebuild on the Carter YS carburetor, and hopefully it makes a difference. Hopefully this thing will idle well and run good. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get it stuck on the Jeep and show you a test run. Okay, we're ready to drop the rebuilt carburetor back on. And of course, you know, to do this, we had to take apart a lot of the Jeep, and to make it easier we did take the valve cover off. It just made things a lot easier. We also took the lifting hook off. Awesome. I'm gonna go fishing for that. All right. So the tricky thing is that you have to lift the carburetor up to get past the studs and slide that nut in. All right, there we go. It just makes it a little bit difficult. All right. Unlike making it difficult, it's where you can only do a quarter turn at a time. Oh well. Alright, nice and tight on that side. Let's tighten up the other side a little now. Alright, that is nice and snug. So, next we can go ahead start putting some of the stuff around it back together. Let's see, while everything's loose, let's get this lined up. I need to adjust that. Let's see. There we go. Get that lined up before we get too crazy with stuff, because that thing's always a pain to get lined back up. All right, now we know we can. It's better to have these plug wires out of the way to put the loop back on, so let's do that. All right, now we can get those plug wires to loop down through here. Into their holders. Alright, and if you don't have one of these from for doing military plug wires, I highly recommend it. You can find it from several of the usual vendors and stuff like that. You can find them online all the time. And it just makes putting these waterproof wires on so much easier. And of course makes it easy getting them off. Of course, the big thing to remember too is Those just need to be snug. You don't need those torqued down to 400 pounds. All right, so we just got a few last things to button up. Get the linkages back on, and we should be rolling. Okay, we have everything buttoned up, fuel lines on, all our plug wires back in, throttle cables hooked up. Our air tube, so choke, all that's all hooked back up. Of course, we had to put the valve cover back on, those plug wires. So fingers crossed, everything should be nice and tight and good. So I guess let's fire this thing up. Let's see what it'll do. So I imagine there's going to be a little bit of fiddling with it, but let's. And it's going to take a little bit of cranking to get fuel up into the bowl. So let's see what we can do. That's made a little spark. Failed attempt.
wrap it up on this episode of Green Iron TV. So we got the Carter YS carburetor all rebuilt, running good. Definitely big improvement. The Jeep idle is really nice now. Nice and smooth power when it's driving. So I'm really happy. I want to send a big shout out to John and all the people at Midwest Military out there in Minnesota for having a good quality kit. It came with everything I needed in it, even some pieces that I didn't even need to use. But made it nice and simple to be able to do a full entire carb rebuild kit, on one of these Carter YS carburetors. Really tickled with the Jeep, how it runs. It did take a little bit. It ended up being off camera as I was fiddling with it. It took a little bit to get fuel up in the carb, and then took a little bit to get the fuel to basically through all the passages and to get it to clean itself up a little bit, that it would run good. And, at first it kind of would pop and start and this and that, and you run with the choke out and this and that, and it took a couple minutes of just running to basically dial itself in, basically get fuel in all the important spots inside the carburetor. Once it did that, it started smoothing out, and from there, then we were able to go ahead, set the idle, turn the idle whip back down, so that the Jeep will run out at an idle. That was the big problem we were having. It would not run at idle. You had to have the idle turned way up. Of course, which then, when we had that last parade, made it quite a feat trying to get through the parade without stalling it out and without causing problems. So anyway, all said and done, not too bad of a project. It's not very daunting. So for those of you guys that have a M38a1 with the original Carter YS carburetor in it, it's not too hard to do the rebuild. So I suggest getting a hold of John at Midwest, getting a rebuild kit from them, quality kit, and print out the manual. There is a specific manual for the Carter YS. It's actually for the Carter carburetors, with a supplement for the YS carburetors that were used in the M38a1. So when you're doing a search for that, make sure you get the one that has the supplements for the M38a1. I'll look up the number. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I'll look that number up and I'll put it here in the bottom here so that you guys can look up that manual number. So anyway, like always, I want to thank you guys for following along. Remember, give us a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, follow along for all our good Green Iron madness. And like always, I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.